Hello and welcome back to episode 4, I believe this is now, of Food for Freedom podcast. If you have only just joined me, then my name's Niamh and I am Fuel for Freedom over on Instagram, TikTok and also YouTube. And basically I help people who are struggling with food or who have eating disorders to see a new perspective, to have new thoughts in their brain towards food, to approach food differently and just to feel safer in approaching food and feeling good around food. So there was a lot of words there, but basically I use my story, I use my healing, I use my recovery journey to help hold your hand through the process of healing your relationship with food. So now we are on episode 4 of Food for Freedom podcast, and I have covered a few subjects which I feel like are main things people struggle with, but today is one that is a key one that I feel like I'm missing, and it is all about fear foods. I do not even like saying the word fear food. I don't like the word fear. I don't like the word fear and food together in one sentence, but that is what we recognise what I'm talking about the best. So that's what I'm just going to use for the moment. So welcome to episode 4, The Art of Unlearning Fear Foods, and I am going to take you through all things fear foods. I'm going to take you through how to approach them. I'm going to take you through what they are, why your brain is fearing them. I'm going to take you through a new way to approach them. So we've got a lot to talk about, but I'm ready to get into it. So let's go. Okay. So the truth about fear foods, what they are, why they matter, what they're doing to you. First of all, we've got to start by stripping the monster of its mask, okay? A fear food is a food that you have an emotional attachment to or rules around. It's a food that feels forbidden to you. It's a food that you perceive as bad. It's a food that you perceive will make you gain weight. It's a food that you are not allowed because it means if you are having it, you will go out of control, or you are going against what the disorder wants, or you are going against everything you are as a human, which isn't true, of course. But these foods make us feel that way. And typically fear foods are foods that society deems as bad, foods that are higher in calories. We all have our own fear foods. They are very much universal, I'm going to use that word. I feel like a lot of people who are going through eating disorders or struggling with food share the same fear foods. So for me, a lot of them were takeaways, pizza, chocolate, peanut butter was a big one, bread, crisp, basically everything I loved, which is absolutely heartbreaking because, like you maybe, I am such a foodie. I have always loved food. I have always made so much time for food. I have always experienced a lot of things with food. Like, my family loves food, you know, always going out for dinners. Like with my grandparents, they'd always take me out for food when I was a kid. I have a very food orientated life, so when I was going through my eating disorder, it was so heartbreaking to feel so distant from all the foods I loved. I felt trapped, and I felt like it was punishment. I felt like it was unfair, and I was constantly deprived of all the foods I loved. So I think going on fear foods is pretty universal, what we all think of a fear food, but it's fine because we're still going to go into it. So I know we look at foods like a fear food is all about the food itself. It's because it's higher in calories and it's going to make us gain weight. All of this rubbish that this voice tells us. So a fear food isn't about the food itself. It's an emotional placeholder. So what this means is your brain is looking for ways to be safe. The eating disorder voice is trying to make you feel safe by staying away from all the foods that you perceive as bad or you link with weight gain. So it holds onto fear foods as a way to control you. The brain is looking for a way to keep you safe, a way to keep you away from the weight gain that it thinks is so terrifying. So it has mistakenly identified the foods that you love and the foods that are in general higher in calories as threats. Things that you need to stay away from, things that are going to ruin your life because you can't gain weight, says the voice. The reason these foods are so important and so important to find love for again is because they represent the walls of the prison that you're in. These are the foods that are stopping you from finding food freedom. You want these foods. I wanted these foods. I wanted to enjoy these foods again. I wanted nothing more than to eat the M&S cookies that were coming out and everyone was raving about, but I wasn't allowed. So that to me was a sign that this is something I have to work towards. This is something that I have to expose myself to, because The foods that I am scared of are the walls of my prison. They're the things keeping me stuck. And I knew this was so important because every fear food that I had was a place that I wasn't allowed to go. So it meant that I wasn't able to go for dinner with friends. I wasn't able to take part with my family. I wasn't able to ever have takeaways. I wasn't able to be spontaneous because I had so many fear foods, and so many of my fear foods were linked with doing things that I loved. So there are so many boundaries and so many things that fear foods are stopping you from doing, all because we have this bad perception of them, this emotional attachment to them that is actually wrong, but the voice in our head that sounds like us and controls us makes it seem like we have to stay completely away from them. I'm going to explain it a bit like an emotional hijack. So I've spoken about the fact that the eating disorder voice comes in and talks like you, knows all your fears, knows all your insecurities. It has a lot of power over you. So the emotional hijack is basically when the eating disorder voice comes in. It knows the foods that you deem as bad. It knows the foods that you are scared of. And these are all things that represent, celebrations or comfort or culture or things that aren't boring. And the eating disorder voice targets these so specifically because they have more power over us, because they're things we want to do but we're not allowed. So the eating disorder voice creates this barrier between us and the fear food because it knows how much those foods mean to us and how much we want them. So it creates this control over us to keep us away from them. It turns all of our favourite foods into fear because we have associated these bad foods with weight gain. And weight gain is the worst thing in the eating disorder's eyes. So it does anything it possibly can. It has all these rules and emotional attachments to these fear foods just to keep you away from them. And the thing is, where the voice is so powerful and it has really, really painted out the worst case scenario of eating fear foods for us, we tend to think safety is staying away from them. It's easier to just stay away from fear foods and not eat them because it's not worth the mental noise, it's not worth the guilt, it's not worth the compensating. Like, it would just be easier if I don't eat them. That's how we think. That's genuinely what we think keeps us safe, and that's where it actually gets dangerous. Because we think it's keeping us safe, but the actual reality that you need to realise is it is keeping you in the same cage. You may think you're keeping yourself safe and you may think you're saving yourself effort and time from going through the restrictions, rules and compensation, but you are still just as unhappy not eating the fear food than you would be eating the fear food. And one of those options actually propels you into food freedom. Not straight away, but we're going to get into that. However, by staying away from fear foods, one, you are giving fuel to the voice that is controlling you all the wrong ways. And two, you are staying stuck in that cage because you are giving the fuel to the voice that is controlling you. So it is just a constant cycle. I do think it's really hard as well because, like I already spoke about, the foods that we fear are the foods that we love the most. So there's this constant but fear conflict going on in our heads where it's like, hey, I really love peanut butter, but I'm so scared of it. But the fact that you can admit that you even love peanut butter or whatever food it is, that's your true self coming through. That's your true self fighting to say, hey, I would really love some peanut butter. I know you love peanut butter. Can we have some? And then the ED voice that isn't yours is overpowering and shouting at you saying, you can't have that because it's too many calories. It's going to make you gain weight. You need to stay away from that. Otherwise, I'm going to make you do some rules. I'm going to make you go through some restriction. I'm going to make your life hell. And that's the conflict because it's like, oh yeah, you're right. I'm not worthy of peanut butter. Oh yeah, you're right. I don't need to have that because it is going to make me fat and I already hate myself. So why would I do that to myself more? When you are in a state of severe restriction, malnutrition, or you're recovering and you are learning to feed yourself more, you have a part in the front of your brain that is the logical part of your brain. This is like the boss of your brain. This is where all the logic happens, all the consequences of things. This is what sees your future. This is what opens you up to possibilities. When you are not being fed enough, that part shuts down. It's off. And there's a part in the back of your brain that is the alarm system, and this is turned up because it's alarm saying, hey, food is unsafe, food is unsafe, food is unsafe. You shouldn't eat that. You've got to restrict that. Now that's the alarm system. And the reason the front of the brain, the logic part of the brain, shuts down is because your body is conserving energy for the things it really, really needs. And that is to keep you safe. And what it thinks is keeping you safe is the voice, staying away from food. So you do not see any logic in the moment when you are in this like and threat state, because you know you like it. You know you like the peanut butter, you know you like the fear food, but the voice is so overpowering that the voice is going to win, because the logic part in your brain that can see past the voice is turned off. So you cannot beat yourself up also at the same time if you want to have a fear food but you are struggling, but you choose the safer, I'm doing bunny fingers if you're watching this, the safer option, which isn't actually the safe option. So that's why it can be really hard to try and find out what you actually want when facing fear foods, because the logical part of your brain is turned off, the boss of your brain is turned off. It's not going to help you in the situation. So what I mean by that is sometimes this is why thinking alone what you want isn't enough in the moment, because the ED voice wins, the ED alarm part of your brain wins, because as the logic brain can't outwin the starved brain. So I hope that's cleared some things up in the sense of why it can be so hard to face a fear food and actually do it in the moment, because I'll tell you, I know exactly what that noise is about. When I'm facing it, when I used to face a fear food, I know exactly what that voice, it would be so overwhelming. You've got all these people around you saying like, oh, you can just have it, or maybe some people don't know and you're dealing with it in your head, but it's so noisy and it's so overwhelming, and it's so much easier to not go with the fear food. Trust me, I know. But understanding what is going on in your brain as to why it feels so hard, what I've just explained, and why you are scared of it is very, very important. So before we go any further, I have to make one thing very clear, and it's one thing that I am very strong about and passionate about, and I need to strip this whole fear food thing. I do not, like I said, agree with putting fear and food in the same sentence. I feel like, yes, it makes sense. Of course, it's a fear food, like you fear it. But in order to change and in order to feel better about these foods and in order to become the most powerful version of yourself, I feel as though we have to change the name fear food. And, you know, if you follow along on this podcast and you follow along on my Instagram and TikTok, let's call them something else. I like to call them new foods, and I think a lot of other people like to do this as well. I think it's a very positive spin on the word fear food, because I think the whole point of discussing this and the whole point of going into this is so you can reintroduce them into your life. And why on earth would you want to reintroduce something that you're scared of? We want to call them new foods. We want to introduce new foods. We want variety. We want spontaneity in our life. We want a new perspective of these foods. We want to introduce them with kindness. We want to introduce them with bravery. We want to introduce them with excitement. We don't want to be sweating eating these foods. We want to be excited about them. Wow, like I'm finally changing my life to eat the things I love again. I'm going to have new foods. The way you speak to yourself is the most important aspect of it. If you are constantly associating these foods with fear and constantly reinforcing that it's something to be scared of, again, it is only giving power to the voice that isn't yours. It's only giving power to something that wants to control you in all the wrong ways. I'm not saying it's your fault, and I'm not saying it's your fault for calling them fear foods. Absolutely not. I'm just saying if we can call them in a better, positive way, I feel like it makes it a little bit more comfortable, and that is what it's all about, being comfortable in this journey, feeling brave, feeling powerful, and that is just so important, so important that you do things that make you feel comfortable, and I feel like calling them new foods is going to do just that. So the first step is to remove the label. We want to be in love with food. We're foodies. I love food. I love food. I'm such a foodie. So we want to remove the labels. We want excitement around this food. It may not feel exciting at first, but one day it will. Our language creates our reality. What we speak out into the world and what we see into the world is how we perceive things back. We always want to be thinking of our recovered self and our free self, and what are they doing? They're not still walking around looking at fear foods. They're not still walking around fearing food. They're looking out for new foods to try. They're looking out for new coffee shops to try. They're looking out for new food trends to try. This is exciting. We are thinking about our recovered self. We are thinking about our food freedom self. We are encouraging them to come into our lives. We are encouraging ourselves to take that step into them. So let's call them new foods. The last important thing that I'm going to mention about this shifting the words and the words that we use to new foods is I feel like the word fear shifts yourself from that fearful state and this whole anxiety thing around fear foods. Instead, it shifts it to curiosity of new food. So like, oh, I wonder how this is going to make me feel. Oh, I wonder how I'll react when I eat this again. And I wonder I wonder what new food combinations I can try with this new food. Things like that. It just removes that scarcity, fearful state into a curiosity state. We're not fighting a villain. We're just welcoming an old friend back in and renaming it. Because you've had food freedom before, you've tried new foods before, you've had all these new foods before, you're welcoming that state back in, you're stepping into that state. You're not fighting this villain, you're not fighting this monster. So we all know what our fear foods are, and we all know why we are scared of them. We're scared of them because the calorie intake of them. We're scared of them because, maybe one food can take up everything that you allow yourself to eat in a day. There's so many factors of fear foods, and everyone has their own way around them, and everyone has their own perspective towards them. Everyone has their own different ones. Again, a lot of us share universal ones, but, we all know the same reason as to why we're scared of them and the meaning we have behind them. And before we go into actually facing them and exposing ourselves to them, I really want to take the minute to explain to you about shifting what a fear food means. So we've already established the fact that we're going to change the name fear food into new foods. So what is the reason you have behind being scared of new foods? So I'll start it off to help you get your mind thinking, but for me, I was scared of new foods because I was scared of the calories. I just viewed everything as calories. I spoke about this before, about calories. I had the complete wrong meaning of them. I would always view them as little tiny things that, as if I ate more of them, and I would just gain weight all the time. I would never stop gaining weight if I just kept eating calories, because I had this bad, wrong meaning of them. And it's the same with new foods and fear foods. I had this meaning of them where it's like, okay, but if I introduce these back into my life, then I'm going to have all these rules to follow. I'm going to be constantly in rules. I'm going to have to make up for it here. I'm going to have to compensate for it there. And it's like, it was just easier for me to avoid them than face them, because it's like I had all this mental toll that would come with having them. But then at the same time, I was very aware that like I really wanted them, and I was missing out on a whole life outside of them. Like I've already said, my family are such foodies. I have a boyfriend that's a foodie, and there were just so many things that I would attend to but not take part in. For example, my parents used to have takeaways, and I would just convince myself that, I don't really fancy it, I don't really like it. Dominoes they used to have, and I would love Dominoes. I would love nothing more than a Dominoes, but I wouldn't take part, and I would just convince them that, oh, I already have food made, I don't want to waste it. Oh, I'm not hungry. Oh, I don't really like Dominoes anymore. And it's like, I would put myself in the room while they were eating it, and I would watch them, not in a creepy way, but just in a way where I'm observing, and I'm like, oh, must be so nice to eat that. And then I'm looking at my thing, at whatever dinner I had, and I'm thinking, but it's okay, because I'm staying on track this way, and I'm disciplined this way, and I don't have to deal with the food rules and guilt this way. And that is so, so backwards, because it's like I'm depriving myself of everything that I love. I'm watching my family all do everything. They're allowed to do it, and I'm not. And that's so heartbreaking. And it's all back to the point that I had a bad perception of a takeaway. I had a bad meaning towards food. I had the bad reasoning towards new foods. I didn't trust myself around them. I didn't feel worth having them. I didn't feel like it was worth it to have them. And it's all because of a bad perception. So where I'm going with this is, I feel like before we go into facing new foods, we have to have a new perception of them to feel better about it, and to constantly remind ourselves of it when we go to it. To feel brave, to feel empowered, to feel excited, instead of to feel nervous, to feel fearful, to feel regret, to feel anxiety. You do not deserve to go through that. No one deserves to go through that. And your voice, you're going to be dealing with these new foods, and your voice is going to be like, how dare you eat that? Go back and do this. Oh, but now you've had that, you have to go do this. Now you do that, you have to go do this. No, you are going to be trying to think of me. You are going to put this podcast back on when you face these foods. and you are going to listen, and that voice is going to be screaming saying, she's lying to you, yeah, but you're an exception, this will never work for you. It's all lies. It is not your voice. And the moment that you realise that, and the moment that you use this new belief I'm about to tell you over and over and over and over and over again, it is going to only help you have your power and use your strength to face these new foods. So it's very simple. Instead of viewing new foods as calories and high calories and things you need to be scared of, view it as life currency. What do I mean? Okay, like I've already said, the foods that you are fearing are stopping you from living your full entire life. Going out with friends, going out with your parents, celebrating your birthday, going for spontaneous drinks with the girlies, going for brunch, going for a matcha, going for a coffee, going for a cake and a coffee, walking at Christmas and getting a hot chocolate, going skiing and getting a hot chocolate, going on holiday and being able to eat out for a week straight and not give a fuck. Do you know what I mean? There's so many things that you are exchanging your life for just to keep a voice in your head that is pretending to be you happy. Look, as cliche as it sounds, we are on a floating rock. We have one shot at this life, and we have normalised pretending that we are invincible. And that's not your fault. That is not a personal attack, because guilty. But what I'm trying to say is, there will be one day, and I can promise you this, that you will be recovered and you will be in your food freedom self, and you'll be using your story as power to help other people. But you will also look back and think, oh my God, with my powerful, strong mind that I have now, I cannot believe I wasted so much time of my life. Again, not your fault, don't blame yourself, blame the voice. Listening to a voice that was the furthest from me. It's not me, and it wasted so much of my life, and I need to get all of that back. There will be a day that you experience that, and I know it feels probably far for you right now, but you have to remember, every time you fear a food and stay away from introducing a new food into your life, you are exchanging your life. You're putting your life on the line. You're saying, here, ED, you take my life, you look after my life, I know you're just going to waste it anyway. That's exactly what you're doing, and it's not your fault. But changing your perspective on what fear food is costing you, you can now view it as a life currency. You know, new foods are your currency. Every time you eat one, you're experiencing a new part of life. You're introducing a new part of life back into your life that you love. So one thing that will help get your brain working a little bit, and something that's really nice, is, because we often forget to do these things because we're so caught up in what the voice is telling us, but think about things that make you happy. Think about things that made you happy that is really forbidden right now. Think about childhood memories. For example, my granddad, bless him, he's passed away now, but I'll tell you something, he was the biggest blessing to this world. The biggest blessing to this world. And he used to take me every time I'd see him, no parents allowed. We'd go for a little coffee and a breakfast, or, well, I wasn't a coffee, what am I talking about? I was only a child, but you know what I mean. We'd go for a breakfast and I'd have like a hot chocolate or an orange juice or whatever, and I'd have like a 5-piece breakfast where I'd pick my beans, pick my sausages, pick my egg, pick my hash brown. Or we'd be taken for a McDonald's, or we'd be taken for a cake, or it was just known as we were being snuck out with Grandad for, you know, all of these nice goodies. And every time as well, he lived in Ireland, bless him, every time he'd pick me up from the airport, he'd have a packet of sweets in his back pocket that my parents weren't allowed to see, but I had to go into his back pocket and take them out sneakily. So there was so many memories that are linked with food for me that I would think about, and I think, I need them back. They made me so happy, I want to do them, but what is stopping me from doing them? It's the voice. And there's times where I go out with my dad for a coffee or a hot chocolate on Christmas Eve as a tradition every year, and when I was going through my ED, that wasn't allowed. I'd have to have something else. And all of those things that I held so deeply close to my heart, I was letting a voice take away from me. So Think about all the things that make you happy, and think about all the things that you want back in your life, and tell yourself that by pushing yourself towards these new foods, you are only welcoming these things back into your life, only making yourself feel braver to do these things again in your life that you love, because you deserve to do them. And if you keep approaching fear foods with anxiety, thinking these are just going to make me fat, it's so far from the truth. So far from the truth. You need to treat it like life currency. You are getting back everything that you have missed out on, and everything that you are depriving yourself from, by introducing these back in and by being brave and trying them again. So I think that's a really beautiful way to look at it, but it's up to you, whatever makes you feel safe. And just something that I want to touch on, because I know there'll be a lot of you that are like, okay, but that's fine, but when I eat these foods, I'm not going to be able to stop around them, and I'm going to go out of control, and I'm going to get really fat, and when I eat them I don't get full up anyway, so there's no point eating them. First of all, think about what I've just said, everything I've just said. And second of all, you need to realise that, I'm not going to go into this too much because this will be sort of a separate thing, but when you start introducing new food into your life and foods that have been forbidden, you will feel the urge to want to go out of control around them, because you are hungry, because you have been restricted for so long. Your brain is like, hey, we like this, can we have more of this please, because we don't know when we're going to get it more. That is just your body reacting to extreme hunger. You will not always feel like you will go out of control around these foods. You will not always feel like you can't be trusted around these foods. It's just because your brain is creating urgency around food because it needs it, it wants all the things it's deprived of, so it creates urgency. And until you listen to that urgency and ride through with it, the temporary period of discomfort, your body and brain will begin to trust you again. You won't feel this urgency around the foods. You will get to a day where it's like, what do I fancy today? I fancy this, I fancy that, I fancy this. It's not like, I want to eat food and chocolate and crisps all the time, and it balances out. Your body trusts you again, your brain trusts you again, and just eating intuitively things that you love comes with that. But it comes with patience, it comes with resilience, it comes with trust, and it comes with consistency. You have to be consistent. Know why you're on the journey. Ride through the uncomfortable periods, knowing it's part of the journey. And one day you will feel balanced out again, and you will trust yourself. You'll trust yourself around food. Your body will trust you. It won't feel the need to make food the front priority in your brain. It won't feel the need to feel out of control around food. It will just be trust. And that's something to hold out for. But that's something that can't stop you from going towards new foods, because it is a thought that comes up and is like, okay, but she can say that because she's not me and I go out of control around these foods. All of us have. All of us has been through the same experience. All of us have to build that trust up with our body again. All of us have to ride through the discomfort, but we all know deep within our deep hearts is that food freedom version of us is on the other side of it. It's all part of the process. It's all part of your body learning to trust you again. So now that I've managed to sneak into your brain and change your perspective about these foods, we are going to speak on how we introduce these foods and how we expose ourselves to these foods. And that is the exact word that I'm going to use: exposure. You have to expose yourself to these foods. You have to go through exposure therapy in order to feel safe around them. So I don't know if you've ever heard of it, I'm sure you have. But don't they say when you are scared of something, maybe a spider, maybe a lion, maybe a tiger, I don't know what it is, they put you in a room with the thing and you have to face it to get past the fear. It's the same concept, not as like dangerous, because food is not dangerous, food is not something that can kill us, food is not scary, but it's the same concept because that's how our brain perceives things. And in order to see through the fear, we've got to face it. I know, god damn, but it is something you have to do, and it is something you'll be very grateful that you do, and something that is going to really help you to find your food freedom self. First of all, I'm going to give you the two states that you face when you are facing foods that scare you. It's the nervous system, and I know this sounds like woo-woo, I know it sounds like, oh, like that doesn't matter, but it very much does matter. Your nervous system and your brain are very much linked. We have two nervous systems. There's one called the sympathetic and there's one called the parasympathetic. And there is one that we are in when we are eating that we shouldn't be in when you're dealing with eating disorders. And then there's one that we should be in, but we're not in. because we have a voice in our head telling us that food is terrifying. So the nervous system that we shouldn't be in, that we are in, is called the sympathetic nervous system. And what this means is it's very fight or flight. So it's almost like you should be in this nervous system when you are in a room with a tiger or a spider. It doesn't know the difference between actual fear and just being sat in front of a new food. So this is where like your heart will race, you'll start feeling really anxious, you'll start feeling really scared, you'll get really fast breathing. Sometimes it doesn't feel like that for everyone, but it's you can still be in your fight or flight state even if you're not breathing very heavy, but it can feel like panic, it can feel like overwhelm. We should not be in this state when we are eating. This is not a state made for eating. So the other one is the parasympathetic nervous system. This is the rest and digest nervous system. This is where the healing happens. This is where you get the signals of safety. Things are safe, things are good, things are going how they should be. This is where we should be when we are eating, but we are not. So knowing these two states are going to be very important when facing new foods, because you can remind yourself that, hang on a sec, I'm panicking. I shouldn't be in this state. I should be in a restful, calmful state. And in order to do that, you have to take deep and slow breaths and calm yourself down. By doing deep breaths, you are telling your body that you are safe, you are calm, like there's no need to react in fight or flight. And by deep breathing, it is very, very hard for your sympathetic nervous system to ignore the parasympathetic. It's very hard to not get into that state. So deep, slow breaths, calm yourself down. I know it's that thing that people say, just take deep breaths, and you just think, shut up, what do you know? But that is actually where it's coming from, and that's what is going to help you stay calm and make logical decisions. So now let's talk about actually exposing ourselves to food. How do we do it? So a way that I found really helpful, and I have a free link that I've told you about on my stories and my TikTok in my bio on my Instagram and TikTok, and it's a free download where I talk you through the mind map of exposing yourselves to new food. I think it's called How I Learned to Eat Without Fear, or Free Without Fear, or something like that. And I basically talk you through the exact strategy that I would use to sit with my thoughts, sit with the foods that I feared and understand why I feared them, help myself have actual understanding and logic as to why I was fearing them. By breaking down your thoughts, you are interrupting your brain's pattern that it has you doing. You are interrupting the ED voice, you are pattern observing, pattern interrupting. In order to rewire your thoughts around this food, you have to understand where the fears are coming from and how you're going to get past them. And you can sign up to that in my bio and just watch it through. It is work. You have to do the work in order to help yourself, but it's guidance and it's there if you need it. So that's the part one I want to tell you about. So something I found really helpful when exposing myself to new foods was writing down all the foods that I was terrified of, that I would want nothing more, or the moments that I was terrified of that I would want nothing more than to do and take part in. So that is step one. You write down every single food that you fear. Number two is pairing them with moments that you love, moments that you miss out on, moments that you want to take part in, memories that you have with them, why they mean so much to you, why you want to do them again. This is going to create a really nice positive memory with why you're doing it. Instead of that fear flagging up, you can constantly remind yourself of why you are wanting to face these new foods again, the memories that come with them. The next step you can do is the actual exposure. Okay, so this is how you're going to incorporate them into your life. In an ideal world, you just go all in. Really, in an ideal world, you would just go all in. You would say, look, I'm going to face all my fear foods and I'm just going to go all in and I'm not going to look back. I mean, by all means, please do it that way if you feel like you can do that, of course. But it will probably feel safer for you to just start incorporating things. Doesn't have to be all at once. It can just be, pairing it with a food that you feel safe around. For example, I love bananas and I had a fear of peanut butter, so I would have a dollop of peanut butter with my bananas and I would realise, oh, that was delicious. Okay, that felt good. That felt empowering that I'd done that. But my brain would be telling me, hey, do you know how many calories are in a peanut butter scoop? Do you want to go check? Do you want to go see that you've now gone over what you're allowed in a day? Do you now know that you have to do this tomorrow? No. No, 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 no. those voices that come up when you are facing a new food and when you're incorporating new foods are alarm signals. Remember what I told you at the back of the brain, the alarm system? It's all guilt and fear on an automatic response to keep you stuck, to keep you in control, to keep you fearing food. You have to acknowledge these thoughts, know they're going to come up, expect them to come up, but know that they are alarm signals keeping you stuck. Then, because you have written down all the things that you want back in your life, all the memories, you can pause, you can acknowledge the fact that the alarm system's going off, and then you remind yourself, no, I'm having this new food because I want this experience back in my life. I want this freedom back in my life. You have got the power now. I am giving you the power through this podcast, through this video, whatever you're watching. I'm giving you the power. I'm giving you the permission to ignore the voice, to know that you have the power, to take the power back and tell the voice, no! Me and Niamh are facing new foods together. So, you compare them with safe foods if that makes you feel safer. The next thing that I feel like is necessary is having a journal. Whether it's digital, whether it's a book, whether you've got a little printer, whatever you have, take a picture of the fear food. Make it fun. Romanticize this part of your recovery journey. Document your journey. Document the things you're proud of. In your head, it may seem stupid. Oh my God, I've just eaten a spoon of peanut butter. What the hell? Like, that's not a big achievement. Of course, it's a big achievement. You are going against every single fibre in your human body that is telling you to not eat, and you are choosing yourself. That is huge. So you take a picture of that fear food and that new food that you are trying, and you document it. You put it in an online digital diary, you put it in a journal, you print it off and you stick it, and you put stickers around it, and you write how you feel. You write how you feel. You write your achievement down. You congratulate yourself. Remember when I told you how important it is to speak to yourself in these situations? It's so important. You have to constantly reinforce the idea that you are strong, you are powerful, you are speaking to yourself with kindness now, you are winning back your life. You have to constantly remind yourself. And not only is that the reason, but the other reason is because you need a proof bank. You need a proof bank of all the things and all the steps that you have taken facing your new foods to prove to your brain on the days where it feels really hard and you feel a relapse coming, or you feel like you want to take 100 steps back, or you feel back at square one. You take this proof bank up and you sit with your feelings and you read back through your journal of all the fear foods that you have managed to get past and nothing bad happened. And it's your proof bank. It's to show on the days that you see no logic and the days that it makes you feel like not eating is the best thing you can possibly do. You run to that journal and you look at that journal as your proof bank. I have done this, so the voice is lying to me. I have done that, so the voice is lying to me. And not only that, getting your feelings out on paper. A problem shared is a problem half solved. And that's on period. Like, writing down your feelings helps you get it off your chest. You feel a release. I know, again, it sounds like, oh, like journaling, like, oh my God, like, rah, rah. But it works. Like, people don't just talk about these things to sound like put together and have their life together. No, it really is an energy release, and it really does help you get your feelings out. You've written it down, you've given yourself permission to leave it in that journal, close it. And I just think it's something so amazing to have to look back on when you are in a position where you feel on top of the world. You can look back and say, yeah, I really did that. Yeah, I really did that. And you can really do that. So it is really all about introducing these new foods into your life and exposing yourself to them. Exposure therapy, it really is as simple as that. And I don't mean simple as in it's so easy. I don't mean that, but I'm saying there is no blueprint to people being suddenly okay with food. They have to expose themselves to it consistently, over and over and over again, to show the brain that nothing bad is happening. And I'm going to go into why. Before I go into the why, it's very important to know that if you are committing to introducing new foods into your life and you are now hyped up, you're ready to start incorporating these into your life, you're ready to start seeing who you can be with these new foods, it's very, 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 very important that you do not restrict, make up, or compensate after introducing any new food. Because let me give you an example. If you are trying to negotiate with the illness and you are trying to negotiate with the voice in your head and you're saying, okay, I'm going to try and have a muffin today out on a coffee with my parents. I'm going to try and have the muffin. We've gone through all the other steps for this muffin and now we're faced with the muffin and we're having the muffin. Okay, it feels uncomfortable. Okay, we're panicking. I'm eating the muffin. I've eaten the muffin. What next? If you start saying, okay, well, it's fine because I've got this for dinner tonight, but I'll just take this off of dinner because that should equal out and then I'll be okay and then I'll not lose control and then I won't gain weight overnight. Blah, blah. Or tomorrow it's fine, I'll do an extra X amount of steps, or I'll do this, or maybe I'll just do some walking when I get home, or any kind of rule or regulation that comes up, you cannot do, because you are just going against all of the hard work that you have just put into introducing this new fear food. Because by reinforcing compensatory behaviours, rules and regulations, you are just saying to the voice, this food is something we still need to fear. We're not owning what we mean. We're not meaning what we're saying. We're not following through with the right action. The actions are the thing that rewire the brain as well as the thoughts. So we can think to ourselves, oh yeah, we're trying a fear food and we're so brave and we're finally making steps. But if you restrict, compensate or do anything after that that shows you don't mean it, that's what your brain's going to believe. And it's hard to ignore. But knowing that, and knowing that if you give in to the voice, you are still showing yourself that you are not deserving of this muffin, that you are not deserving of food, that the voice has more power over you than you do. It will just say, I know I win. I know I can win. You can eat that muffin, but I'm going to make your life hell for that, because you are giving it the fuel to keep going. You are reinforcing the idea that food is fear. And that's just sort of in simple terms. I'm not saying it to be mean. I'm not attacking you. I promise you, it is the truth. So you have to own what you are doing. You have to say it with chest. I deserve this muffin. It's going to be uncomfortable. I'm going to get screamed and shouted at, but I'm doing this for me. I'm doing this for me now. I'm not listening to a voice. Guilt and fear can go away because I'm not compensating this. I'm going to have my dinner as well after this muffin because I deserve dinner. It's normal to have dinner. I'm not going to restrict on my dinner, because if I restrict on my dinner, I'm just reinforcing the idea that food is scary. So that's very, very important. I've already spoke about this before, but our brain works in circuits, and the circuits right now that are automatically running, the behaviours and rules that come up after eating fear foods and new foods are automatic because we've practiced them over a long time. We have ingrained beliefs about these fear foods. Now the response just comes automatic. So the fear becomes automatic, the guilt becomes automatic. By acknowledging the fact that they are going to flag up when we eat these foods, because your brain fires on these circuits. So by us interrupting a circuit and eating a new food, we've interrupted the circuit. So obviously it's going to be like, oh my God, we need to get back on track. Oh my God, what's happening? Oh my God, we're in danger. But that is only temporary. By eating fear foods and constantly reintroducing them and constantly having them over and over and over again, new ones over and over again, and proving to your brain that nothing bad happens and nothing bad comes from it, the brain has no choice but to create these new circuits and fire them and give the automatic response of nothing bad happens when she eats this, nothing bad happens when she eats that. The first time of eating a fear food will feel like a glitch. I've done something really terrible, but the 10th time of eating a fear food will feel like a choice. It will feel like something you want to do. It will feel like something that you know all the reasons you're doing it, so you're doing it whether the voice is telling you not to or not. Something else that I want to touch on is also, it's very easy to normalize new foods. So what I mean by this is, let's use the peanut butter as an example again, okay? So when I would introduce peanut butter, I introduced it slowly and then I was fine with it and I was like, okay, this is actually really amazing, I'm really enjoying this, I'm gonna go again. So I went again, and then it came to a point where I just sort of like in my recovery normalized the new foods that I was used to again. So my new foods became my new safe foods, and I then wasn't pushing myself to try newer foods that were even scarier to me, because I felt so safe with my new foods. Does that make sense? This can happen because your brain doesn't like change. It's already put up with enough change with the new foods that we've just had. So, we're just going to get used to these new foods, and it's okay because you are fighting back to the voice, but let's just stop here now because we're a bit more comfortable here. Let's just stop getting uncomfortable. We hate change. Brain loves predictability, and it can't predict what's going to come with the new foods. So you've got this level of new foods that you feel safer around now because you've faced them and you're like, okay, these are actually fine, but I'm just going to stick here for a little bit. But I've still got all these new foods that I'm really scared of. In order to get to the new foods that you're really scared of, you cannot get stuck in this comfortable blanket here where your new foods are your new comfort blanket. There's a lot of news being thrown around here. So because your brain hates unpredictability, it likes to stay stuck. It doesn't know what's coming with these new fear foods. So it turns to the new safe foods to stop any change from happening. So if you are feeling where you're in a place where it's like, okay, but I'm trying new foods, but I'm still so terrified of other foods, you need to know this is just your comfort blanket talking. This is the brain still trying to keep you stuck. You're still not quite where you need to be, but this is good because there's room for growth here. We can push ourselves. We've done it before. We've got our new foods, so we can do it again. And then comes a new level of freedom. Then comes a new level of, oh my God, I really did that. And keep that journal out for these new foods, okay? Keep that journal. Keep journaling down everything because you are going to go through the motions. You are. I'm not going to lie to you and say you're not, because some days are going to be hard. Some days you're going to feel on top of the world. But sticking with yourself and your reasons why and your emotions and being honest about your emotions, using the people around you, talking to people about how you feel is so important because it keeps you on the right track. Everyone around you just wants the best for you. You want the best for you. The voice doesn't want the best for you. But I'm here whenever you need to listen to this when you are trying new fear foods and trying new foods. I'm always going to try and make food feel as safe as possible as I can for you. The acting of avoidance with food is just telling our brains that food is something that we need to be scared of. And finally, the last thing I want to talk about is a really important, mindset shift, really bit of inspiration type thing to really get you going at the end of this video. But as much as your voice is going to tell you that you are losing control around food, you are not. You are simply gaining your life back. The eating disorder for so long has promised you control, but it's a trap, it's a lie. It's actually total restriction, total restraint, total holding you back from your life that is supposed to be filled with so much happiness and joy, and you have so much purpose on this earth, but this voice is not letting you do that. You need to understand that real control comes from the moments where you can go to a restaurant and order what you want just because you feel like it. You can go on holiday and you can eat out as many times as you want and know that you are on holiday and you are having a good time. Real control comes from being able to decide where you want to go to eat, what you want to eat, what you want to eat at home, when you want a snack. All of that is real control, real free control. So I want you to sit and think about the version of you maybe 6 months from now, maybe 3 months from now, maybe a year from now, maybe 2 years from now. However far away, however close that version of you is, and that's in your control. That person is sitting at a table ordering what they want, not thinking about the ingredients, not thinking about anything other than the fact they can't wait to get this bit of food inside them because they love this food, without a single thought about the ingredients or the consequences or the guilt or the making up to do. Just imagine them. Imagine that version of you that you want to be, that is free around food, that has all these new foods incorporated into their life without a problem. Think about them. That person exists, and the only way to become that person is to face and expose yourself to these new foods as soon as possible. It is uncomfortable, but it is the bravest thing that you will ever do. But on the other side of that discomfort is not disaster. It's literally you waiting for you to come and grab your life back. It's literally waving at you. They're waving at you saying, hey, I'm over here. You just have to go past this uncomfortable bridge to get here. And I promise everything will be okay. Because you are resilient, you are strong, you can do it. And you do not deserve a life that is controlled by a voice that wants nothing but the worst for you. So I really hope the art of unlearning fear foods has helped you feel a little bit safer and a little bit more motivated to approach these new foods, because I want nothing but the best for you and I want you to see the way out of this journey. I want to hype you up. I want to inspire you. I want to get you there, So listen to this when you feel like you need to. Remember the points. Take things at your own time. And most importantly, do not compare yourself to anyone else. always remember your why. Always remember why these foods are so important to incorporate back into your life, and just stay consistent. As hard as it is, stay consistent and separate yourself from the voice that does not want anything but the worst for you, okay? You can do it. I'm so proud of you, and I can't wait to catch up in the next one.